Carnell Tate may be the first wide receiver drafted in the 2026 NFL Draft, and the Ohio State Buckeyes' next first-round pick.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. We said it, I believe, during our big board reveal, which was Friday. And if you haven't checked it out, go back and check out Friday's episode. Pretty sure me and Keith had a discussion about Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. We need to break down and give you a scout report. Well, guess what? That is today. We're going to break down the scout report for Carnell Tate, pros, cons, and explain the grade. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use the profit boost on any NBA future and get into for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. As I always ask, Keith, Carnell Tate, 6'3", 195 pounds, ended up having close to 900 yards receiving, I believe like 8 touchdowns in the year because he did miss some games with the undisclosed lower leg injury. What's that superpower, that A trait that he's going to take into the NFL that's going to help him be successful?
Yeah, and like most episodes we've done with these scouting profiles, what I've done, right? I've done a physical trait. I've done a mental trait, right? Intangible. That's what I've been calling them. And I'm gonna start with the intangible again, DP. And the intangible for Carnell Tate is his IQ, in my opinion, just how smart and intelligent he is, and his ability to find vacant spots in the zone defense, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and go with a comp, but I'm gonna throw out a name. It is not a comp, right? That's what I want to say, right? But I want to liken it to how Larry Fitzgerald, for specific reasons, right? And we'll get into the cons, right? But Larry Fitzgerald had to win with his IQ, right? Like he was an IQ winner, especially the back half of his career.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed as though people just couldn't cover him because of how smart he was and understanding what coverages was coming, body positioning, how to set defensive backs up, right? That's the mental part for Carnell Tate. That's the intangible. The tangible is exactly what you're showing on the screen, and to our listeners, he's showing a contested catch where Carnell Tate goes up and over a defender, right? That's the part. When you talk about the wingspan and his overall catch radius, he's a guy you feel comfortable with really working out and flushing out those back shoulder throws or giving him the one-on-one opportunities to go get the football, come down with it, and have excellent body positioning. And what I mean is the IQ to be able to keep both feet in when you're close to the sideline or something like that. So just a very knowledgeable player. I think that's the part that stands out the most for Carnell Tate.
Yeah, he's definitely a high IQ player. I think my A trait for him and that superpower, it goes kind of hand in what you're talking about. It's the nuance and detailed route running. Like, this is a guy that knows how to win one-on-one. People like to use the Jeremiah Smith gravity as a negative and like, oh, well, he's only doing that because Jeremiah Smith's on the other side. I'm like, no, because if he's at any other team and he's their wide receiver one, he's doing the same thing. Like this, if you give him those one-on-ones, he plays the X, the Z, and the slot. This is a dude that knows how to stem. He knows how to leverage you. I can't remember which game I was watching, but he has just subtle, nuanced moves and maneuvers with his routes to open the hips of DBs, whether it's sharp and hard plants at the line of scrimmage. If you do press him, if you're giving them off coverage, you're giving them cushion, he's got that stride length to eat cushion up. He's almost like a gazelle in terms of how he opens that stride, and he just glides. And next thing, and it's deceptive, Keith, because for a DB playing 5 to 7 yards off, you're like, okay, I got some time. And then you realize, oh no, about 2 or 3 steps, he's right into my airspace. He's on my toes now. And he does a good job. He knows how to use the rocker step at the top of his breaks. I think he ran it might have been a comeback route. Can't remember which game it was. It was early in the season. But he hits the guy with the rocker step, then gets past him. Dude flips his hips to turn and run, and then he snaps it off on the comeback route and creates like 3 or 4 yards of separation. That ability to sink, drive, to leverage, all of like those are the things you see guys do in the NFL when they're left one-on-one. Like when the NFL at the end of the season, they start posting those top 10 routes. You see guys on a route, like these are legitimate routes. These aren't just, hey, a quick out route or a quick go route or hitch route. No, these are routes where they made somebody look foolish. Like he knows how to win one-on-one. And then you combine that with the fact of, you know what? If I want to throw it up top to him, he's going to go get it because he's a springy athlete. Because I think there was a Wisconsin photo graphic that I had up where he goes over the DB. But I think that might have been the same game or the same play where it might not have been in the shot where he goes over 2 defenders. He's got a defender right in front of him that he's leaping over. And there's one guy right behind him that he's leaping over. And he just goes up, climbs the ladder, and takes the ball out the air. So the ball skills, the body control, and he's taking the top off the defense all season too. Like he averages over 17 yards per catch. And like this is a guy that, again, can get vertical. And his ADOT, for those who don't know, his average depth of target, it's over 14.5 yards, 14.6 yards per attempt. So he gets down the field. He can create explosive plays, but he's just arguably one of the best pure route runners, in my opinion, in this class. Like he's going to be able to create space and get open. He's a QB-friendly wide receiver because if you got an accurate quarterback, they're going to absolutely love him.
Yeah.
If you got an inaccurate quarterback, you'll love him too because I can put it where he can go get it for me.
He can help you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I that's what I think with Tate, right? I think of the Aaron Rodgers connection with so many of his wide receivers, right? And these are not more comps, right? But I'm just talking about how Aaron Rodgers had these in-depth connections with guys that, and this is going to kind of lean a little bit into next segment, right? With guys that we didn't feel were elite athletes, right? Like the Jordy Nelsons, the Greg Jennings, the Donald Drivers, right? But all of those guys were very smart, intelligent players. And I believe all those guys, their peak were, I believe every last one of those guys made the Pro Bowl at some point, right? Like think about the James Jones, right? Like he had wide receivers that were just very smart guys. And like I said, that wasn't comps as far as who I believe him to be, but it was comps as far as their different ways to win as a wide receiver, right? And I think the IQ part for him, it can't be overlooked because it's such a big part of the game. Now, where you decide to put him, I think is going to be a conversation that we have next segment and role and things like that. But DP, I'm almost tired of hinting at it, right? I think we should jump into it because there's a lot of conversation, a lot of discourse about Carnell Tate, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm excited to have this conversation with you, right? Like this is what scouting is about, being able to bounce ideas, trajectories, different things like that, all for each other, and then try to come to a good landing spot, right? How they say a soft landing. That's what we want, a soft landing right here. So DP, coming up next, man, we're going to talk about the concerns, right? And we're not going to shy away from them because there are concerns to Carnell Tate's game. We want to talk about that, flesh out the idea, and have the conversation. We'll discuss that coming up next.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every single deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. TurboTax didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to living your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book an appointment today. Breaking down the concerns for Ohio State star wide receiver Carnell Tate. That's what we're getting into next. But thanks for being an everydayer with us. If you want the show ad-free, check out the Everydayer Club and become a member. Go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to become a member. Carnell Tate, 6'3", 195 pounds, wide receiver for Ohio State for the Buckeyes. Keith, I think when I think about cons, you bring up the athleticism. I'm gonna let you dive into that first, but for me, it's his frame. He's tall, but he's slender.
Mhm.
And when I've seen at the line, you don't see guys win against him at the line of scrimmage often. They try to give him cushion and stuff like that, which really isn't much better for you, to be completely honest. When you're facing
It probably
Carnell Tate,
works against you, honestly.
yes, actually works 100% against you, because now he's getting a free run, and now I can maneuver and rocker step and all this other stuff like that, and I can get by you and I can win. But when those kind of stronger, long arm corners do get hands on, it is a little more difficult for him to get free and disengage quickly. And in the NFL, we know it's a timing game, right? So it's like, hey, if you're on the line of scrimmage, if you're at the X spot, and I do put a Quinyon Mitchell or Derek Stingley or one of these top corners on you, and they are able to reroute you a little bit, that time could force the quarterback to come off you as a read, because it's like, we've seen it, right? Like, heck, we put you in the slot. We're facing the Seahawks, and they got Nick Ebenwari against you. Like, well, I watched him lock down receivers all year last year as a rookie. Like, I don't want to test that situation. I'm going to come off of that, and that can dictate how many catches you have in that game and how big your impact is. And that's where and it's not that he doesn't have a release package. It's more so, to me, I think he's a guy that in those situations, yes, because he's more finesse. He's more of a hand usage, dip the shoulder. He wants to evade, slip you, and get north to south. He wants to get into his route quickly, and I appreciate that. But sometimes you got to meet brute force with brute force, and when guys want to punch your chest and get their hands into your jersey, you got to be able to get those hands free, and that's something I don't see enough of with him.
Yeah, no, I'm with that, DP. That was one of the concerns, like you said, just being able to, when there's the cornerback, if you're playing the X position or something like that, right? And there's the corner and say, you know what, I'm just going to walk up and play press man and force you to run through the physicality. And usually when we talk about those top end corners, they're technically sound, right? So you can't bank on the fact that they're going to get a flag or anything like that, right? Like, these are guys that are premier athletes that are technically sound.
I feel like he's nothing's real. I feel like not to say it in a negative way, I feel like he avoids that strength on strength matchup. I feel like he's trying too much to just slip and finesse his way off the line of scrimmage, rather than saying, you know what, if you want to play this, it's like boxing. You want to throw these hands? Let's throw the hands then. Like, you punch, I counter. Like, instead of that, it's more just dipping the shoulder, slipping the shoulder, and hoping that, hey, I can slip by you and get by you with finesse.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. With DP, I'm gonna get to one of my concerns, and I think probably a concern for a lot of people is the overall athleticism. And I'm talking about whether that's when we talk about, I talked about the zone part, right? And I talked about how the high level intelligence, IQ, right, in zone defense. But we all know there's a part of defense that's just called purely man, right? Man-to-man defense. And your ability to win vertically against defensive backs, right? Like, is there the explosiveness there? Is there the top end speed to not only get on top of them, but then you can start to create separation, right? And when you're talking about drafting a guy with a top 10 pick, right? Is that what you're drafting them in that light, to be like, you know what, this guy can be a playmaker. He can, how am I trying to say this? He can win on his own. And I know it's not even about Jeremiah Smith. Like, I'm not worrying about that part, right? Because Carnell Tate has his own duties. What I'm talking about is just in the vacuum, him going against the premier corners and winning, right? Like, can you win on your own? Like, just go ahead and dominate. So that was a concern. And then the run after catch ability, DP. I wish there was a lot more to be had. And you said what he finished with 900 yards last season?
Yeah, about 8 and some change, because he missed the games. Yeah.
that probably could have easily been 1,000 yards if the run after catch, like, because those 10-15 yard situations, they easily add up over a course of a season, right? Like you're talking about just 10 games with 10 extra yards rack ability. That's 100 right there, right? Let alone some other opportunities. And talking about wide receivers that we've seen come out of Ohio State, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba, in my opinion, was great at that, right? Like the sturdy build, the Marvin Harrison Juniors, right? We've seen other wide receivers. Garrett Wilson was another guy out of Ohio State that did a really good job of that sort of rack ability. DP, it was
missing.
a head, huh?
It's missing. Like, it's just not in his game.
Yeah, and it's head scratching because it's like you caught the football, just run with it in your hands. Like, let's go, let's go now, right? And and you very rarely say this for a wide receiver. Like, is it a lack of contact balance? Right? We usually use that that scouting terminology for running backs, right? But for him, like that, it makes you ask, like, is there just no balance there? Like, what's the issue? Because it's not I don't think you're nitpicking when you say it, because it's so blatantly obvious when you watch
it. It's a glaring hole in this game.
Yeah, that you like, man, like that would have been a lot more yards if you could have broke that one shoestring tackle. And so converting that means that usually where he catches the football is usually where the play stops, right? So so I think, just looking at that part of it, it puts it in a different light.
So I'm gonna put some numbers to back up exactly what you're saying, Keith. On the season this year, he averaged 4.5 yards per reception of yards after the catch. So Yak, he averaged 4.5 yards. That's not great. So I'm gonna go a little deeper. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that he played in this year. He had less than 4. He averaged less than 4 yards per catch of Yak. Like, he had a couple games. I think the conference championship game or whatever, the Big Ten championship game, he had 1.5 yards of Yak. There's one game this year he had 1.5 yards per reception. I'm sorry, where he had, I think it was, they played Wisconsin week 8. He had 111 yards in that game. Guys, he had 6 yards after the catch that entire game.
Wow,
that's a crazy stat. Like, wait a minute, you had triple digits. Like, and you only had 6 yards after the catch the entire game. Yes, like, he's got 4 games this year where he did not hit double digits in terms of Yak on the season. He had 6, 6, 2, and 1. Like to go a whole game with just 1 yard after the catch is crazy to think about. So to your question of why is it like that, Keith, I think it's a mixture of. So great, right? And it's weird because when you see really good route runners, you're like, okay, you got the movement skills. But it's different when you in the phone booth. Like, when you catch the slant and that linebacker, that safety is triggering down, do you have that, like, whether it's a spin maneuver, a stiff arm, jump cut, just a 1-2, like something to put a move on the guy? And going back to the strength issue, I don't think you don't power through tackles. So
I was about to ask that. Does all of this derive from the same issue when even we discussed beating press man and things like that? Is it all due to a potential lack of overall strength? Like, that's what I was going to ask you.
He's lean, man. He's tall and lean. And it's just because you think about that. That's why I say when I first coming into the season, I remember I was, texting one of my guys, and he was like, man, he wasn't high on him. He was like, I feel like he's just a steady Eddie receiver. I said, no, yes. And then I watched the summer tape. I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way. Second round guy. I was like, yeah, 100%. Then the season started, and I'm like, this dude's balling. And I'm like watching this film and everything. He's taking over games. And I was like, man, the route running, the size, the ball skills, the speed. I'm like, down the field, the stride. I want to go to AJ Green so bad. And then I popped on some AJ Green highlights. I'm like, nope, can't do it. Can't do it. AJ Green, catch that slant, that safety. If you don't get that hit on AJ, he slip you, two-step you, sidestep you, he's out of there. And it's just like, nah, I'm not. AJ Green was stronger, even though he was a lean guy. He was stronger than his size. I remember guys were trying to tackle AJ Green up high.
And he
AJ
throwing
Green
them
to
on the ground.
throw him on the ground and then keep going. So I just want to see him. That's a concern. Is just the strength, the build. Hey, do you need to get stronger? Do we need to add a little more weight to the frame, but not try to sacrifice? Because you talk about the top end speed. I think his top end speed is fine. He's one of those guys that, because he has a track background, like he ran the 200 and the 100 and everything, and he's one of those guys where he's not. I don't think he's a fast starter against press or whatever. So you think about running the 200. The 200 is probably the worst race to run against him, because that first 50 meters, that's just his warm up. Like he's just getting up. He's that gazelle getting up to speed, and then you hit that first 100-meter line, and now he's at full stride, and it's like F. Like okay, like you know what I mean. Now I gotta hit one of his strides. Or I have to always go back to Usain Bolt. Tyson Gay was one of his biggest nemesis. But when you are 6'6" and your stride is 3 yards, it's just like, what am I going to do with this? I can't help that. You know what I mean? Once Usain Bolt open the stride, he opens the stride. It's the same thing when I watch Carnell Tate, is that once that stride opens, I can pull away from guys, but he's not a fast starter. So for him, I would like to see him get a little stronger. Hey, start hitting guys with a stiff arm. You know what I mean? Like that linebacker sitting there waiting for you, stiff arm him, get around him, get 5. I'm not telling you to be 7-10 yards after the catch, but give me 5 to 6. You know what I mean? Like give me that 4.5 yards per catch of yak on average for a season is just not going to get it done. It's not going to cut it for me.
Yep. Well, DP, let's do. I agree with all of the concerns, and there's something we need to pay attention to, right? And with the combine right around the corner, we'll get some answers, right? Whether that's going to be height, that's going to be weight, that's going to be speed, that's going to be change of direction stuff with the L cones and the shuttles and different things like that. So we should get some answers coming up here next. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's get into the draft grade that we gave Carnell Tate, and then talk about NFL comps. Who do we believe Carnell Tate can comp to that has been a past NFL player? We'll talk about that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn your dreams into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which teams you believe can make a deep run, well, this is the perfect time to lock in. And now, not only can your pick cash in, but it can also send you to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started and use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayer. Explain the grade and give out the NFL comps that we have for Ohio State star wide receiver Carnell Tate. I'm going to throw it to you. Tell the people what grade you have and where you projecting to be.
DP, this is one where I didn't want to go first. I wanted you to go first. DP. Because I'm gonna tell you why I am so conflicted in feelings. And this is the fun part about scouting, right? Because you're watching, you have your gut feeling, and then you have what's on film, and then you have what people are saying, right? Like you have all that kind of mixed in together, right? This is the fun part about scouting. So grade, I went 85. Fringe first rounder for me. That's why I went with it. And coming off of our concerns, that's what led in part to this grade. I went 85 for him right now. I need some answer. I need some questions answered. I'm sorry. Top end speed. What does he run? I think for Carnell Tate, and I think we talked about this, was that last week's episode. You can take the number 4 or 5 and put the over under starting right there, right? Is it over 4 or 5? Is it under 4 or 5? I think that's going to dictate so much about where he continues to get trajected to as far as, mock drafts and things like that, right? So I'm gonna say that part. I'm 85. Comps. I'm throwing AJ Green out the window because I did the same exact thing you did. Like, and this is something, and I'll tell the people listening, right? For those people who aspire to be, future NFL draft analysts and scouting, or if you just want to know for your team, right? Something I always call retroactive evaluations that I did at LSU, right? If I want to know what a good running back looks like, I put on Saquon Barkley high school film, right? And when I was recruiting high school recruits, like just to kind of tell what did Leonard Fournette look like in high school, what did, and kind of go back to be able to understand it. Going back and watch AJ Green, I was like, yeah, they might be two different monsters. It's just not the same caliber, right? And so where I've landed, DP, I have a host of names. I'm gonna go with two. One is very unlikable, not as a person, but people are gonna be like, "Oh man." And then one, I think people are gonna be like, "Okay." So I went Keenan Allen with my high point, right?
Okay.
I went Keenan Allen, and I have another name I could throw out there too. I went Keenan Allen with my high point. I went T. Higgins in the middle, and I went DeVonta Parker low end. I gave 3 different names, but DP, that's just where I'm at right now. I'm like, that's where I'm at right now. I have to finish flushing this situation out because there's a lot. There's a lot there that has to kind of be flushed out.
No, I'm like I can see it for sure. Like it's he's a very interesting case study. And again, it's just like, some people don't believe yak is important, but I'm like, you look at the NFL, quick
that's
game.
Huge. When you're talking about the number one wide receiver, like show me a number one wide receiver in the NFL that will most like probably 90% of them dominate from a yak ability.
Right.
Like that's their like not calling card their only trait, but that's a big part of their game.
Yeah. And it's not like saying, hey, let me get this small receiver who only thing he does is yak. No, we're not saying that. It's like,
no.
But when you are talking about a top 10 pick and a potential wide receiver 1, like these type of limitations can limit the ceiling that you have to where whether or not you're a 1 or you're a 1B and we got to bring in a 1A, and that goes to so I'm gonna get my grade first. My grade is an 8.3. So that is a over for at Bleach Report. That's a year 1 starter. That's that, kind of middle of the pack, round 1, late round 1 type of situation.
Okay, so
again,
we somewhat similar in that, right? Somewhat.
Yeah, and I think same thing. Getting to the combine next week. This week. Sorry, this week. And I leave tomorrow. So I think we both probably leave tomorrow. Like my flight is in the morning, and we hit Indianapolis. We ready to roll for the week and see what these young men are able to do if he tests right. My comp for him is a taller, heavier DeVonta Smith.
The funny part was when you talked about role, that's what I thought about with DeVonta Smith, like a 2. And maybe that's what you were saying.
That 1B, I gotta bring in that 1A, like how the Eagles did, where I felt like I was like, hey, maybe y'all let Smitty figure it out as a true one, see if he's a true one. And they're like, no, let's go get AJ Brown. If the Titans don't want him no more, here's a first round pick. We'll go ahead and get this Pro Bowl, all pro caliber wide receiver and bring him in. And I mean, a couple years later, you got a Super Bowl out of it, and all that type of stuff. And it's helped elevate that team. And for how long, we don't know, because there's a lot of rumors about AJ Brown being traded, this offseason. But I think that's a situation where you walk into it and it's like, okay, you bring in, like I said, a taller, heavier version of Smitty, where, all right, Carnell Tate, you come in. Like, I think it's a situation where the Giants at 5 makes sense because you have Malik Neighbors. Who's that 1?
I ain't thinking about
right?
it.
You already have that 1. If you're the Titans and you're trying, and you got Eli Ayomena, who I liked last year, who did some good things. Shamir DK, explosive, movable piece and punt returner and everything. Do you look at Tate and say Tate's the true 1? Like that's going to just make do you draft Tate and say, okay, now I can put DK in the slot, I put Tate at the X, I put Ayomena at the Z, or do Ayomena still have to play the X because he's the bigger, stronger receiver and Tate play the Z? Like, you know what I mean? Like, does he come in and immediately elevate that situation as a 1? I don't know if I can say that with full confidence. I love Tate's game. You know what I mean? I still would take him somewhere in the top 10 because his grade is not that far behind from me from Jordan Tyson. They flip-flop mainly because of Tyson's injuries, his injury history. But I think athletically Tyson's better. I think route running upside, I think Tyson, with emphasis and stuff from a coaching staff, he can be just as nuanced and detailed as a Carnell Tate. But Tyson has more upside from a strength profile in me and from a yards after catch profile to me. You know what I mean? Where I look at Tate and it's like Tate might be more of a, like you said, it's like that running back, because I'm big on this running backs. Can you create? Right? Are you going to get what's blocked? Or can you create more than that? And Tate's one of those receivers that are you going to get what's thrown to you? Or can you create after that? And for me, I don't see the ability to create after that. So that could limit his ceiling as a wide receiver one. But yeah, I think that taller, heavier DeVonta Smith, that comp feels great. If he had any semblance of just wiggle and elusiveness after the catch, man, I'd say poor man's AJ Green or AJ Green Jr. in the heartbeat, Keith. But because he doesn't have that, I got to go with a taller, heavier, or bigger version of DeVonta Smith. And again, hey, Giants, I'm all for it. They pick him at 5. I have no qualms about that. You know what I mean? No qualms about that. The Browns, I don't know, because you don't have a true wide receiver one right now. And I don't want to throw that type of – I don't want to throw that I don't want to heap that on him. Like, hey, you're the guy that has to be the savior to this receiving room and help elevate Shedeur Sanders in this passing offense for Todd Monken. You know what I mean? Because another name I thought about was Rashad Bateman. You know what I mean?
Hey, he came to mind for me too. He came to mind for me too. That's another one.
Whereas like he was drafted with the potential to be a 1, but it was, as we've seen throughout his career, the injuries and just the ineffectiveness sometimes with him, he's been more of a 2-3.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm gonna ask you this, DP, real quick before we have to wrap this show. I went back to the 2024 NFL draft class, and I'm gonna ask you to place him amongst this class, okay? So if I remember correctly, Marvin Harrison Jr. went number 4 to the Cardinals. Yep. Malik Neighbors went 6 to the Giants. Rome Odunze went 9 to the Bears. Brian Thomas went 23 to the Jaguars, and Xavier Worthy went 28 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And Ricky Pearsall went. I'm sorry, I was about to cut this off. This is a loaded wide receiver class.
That was crazy.
Xavier Worthy went 28 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Ricky Pearsall went 31 to the 49ers, and Xavier Legette went 32 to the Carolina Panthers. Where would you place him in that draft class? That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 wide receivers in the first round. So Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette.
So I would actually have Tate as I'll probably have him as the 3. I'll have him right up there with Rome.
Okay.
As a prospect.
Yeah.
As we've seen, as an NFL player, Brian Thomas had a much better rookie year than something happened in year 2, and he didn't keep that same the fire wasn't still, blazing like it was, in year 1. But I think he would probably, because I think the ball skills, he would probably be my wide receiver 3 in that draft, because he plays bigger to me than Rome does. And Rome might be right. Rome was heavier than him. I think Rome was like a little over 200.
Rome, I don't know. I feel like he's a 215. I might be 215
somewhere in there. But he doesn't you don't see him dominate the catch point the way that you see with a guy like Carnell Tate, who's probably good 10, 15 pounds lighter than him. So I would say probably wide receiver in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 role.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to put this in context, like just for the classes, because we always say like this, it changes per class. You know what I'm saying? Every class provides different things. So I'll probably put him. Yeah, he'd have probably been wide receiver 3 to 4 to me, like just off of just what I feel that they can translate to the NFL. So somewhere around between 3 and 4. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow, guys, because on tomorrow's show, we're getting into the quarterbacks and previewing the quarterbacks that you need to watch at the Combine. We're going to talk about guys that we're excited for, who needs to have a strong performance, and then those sleeper quarterbacks to watch at the Combine and everything. Interviews, medicals, and, of course, on the field, whoever decides to work out and test. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.